You might not have noticed, but we grew up in India with visual motifs all around us. Our art spoke in a language of symbol, and we have seen these symbols everywhere. कभी मंदिर में, कभी अपनी bed sheets पे, कभी prints में, कभी अपनी earrings में. Even if you're not from India, you must have seen these motifs somewhere or the other. And you know what? A single element, flower or fruit can have profound ideas. It's like a silent code understood by those who are steeped in the culture. And if you look closely, there are these three recurring symbols: a mango, fish, and lotus. Aam, machli, kamal ka phool. And today, let's uncover the meanings they carry for the artists and devotees from the past and the present. As we delve into each motif, we'll realize how historical facts influence the choices of the artist and why the age-old symbols still resonate with us today. So to start, I would like you to imagine a Buddhist stupa in ancient India. On the gateway, a beautiful woman entwines herself around the bough of a fruit-laden tree. She isn't merely a decorative figure, she's a yakshi, a nature spirit. And the tree she embraces is a mango tree. Now, as we move through time, picture a delicate painting in a hill kingdom palace. A fishman deity emerging from the water to rescue humanity's wisdom. And deeper in a shadowy cave, a bodhisattva stands with a lotus blossom in hand, radiating compassion in the flicker of lamplight. These three scenes will guide the story of symbolism in Indian art today. इंडिया में आम सबको पसंद है, regardless of the location or the culture. But did you know that in Indian thought, mango tree has long been a symbol of fertility and fulfillment? Now, I would love to explain the thought process behind it with an example. So let's look at an artwork from the 1st century CE, which is one of the sculptures I mentioned above. A sandstone yakshi clings to a mango tree, a pose joyous and dynamic. In this carving from the Sanchi Stupa's gateway, which is now in the British Museum, mango's presence is not arbitrary. It's a kalp vriksha, which means a wish-fulfilling tree in Indian culture, embodying the fulfillment of desires. By carving a yakshi with a mango tree at the Buddhist site, early artists blended local fertility cult symbol into a Buddhist context, a wise concession to popular beliefs to ensure the site's auspiciousness. Early visitors approaching the stupa would pass under the image, reading it as a promise of prosperity and plenty. The sculpture doubles as an architectural bracket, supporting the stone gateway, but symbolically it supports the spiritual intent of the monument itself. The yakshi, which is a nature spirit, and the mango tree together create a visual mantra of fertility, growth, and the blessing of nature. The mango motif didn't remain confined to Sanchi. It blossomed across India in multiple faiths and eras. Whether in temple carvings, Mughal miniature paintings, or the designs of a bridal sari, mangoes came to symbolize luxury, sweetness, and the cycle of seasons. To this day, the paisley motif resembling a mango shape remains an emblem of prosperity and beauty in South Asian textile. The Sanchi yakshi grasping her mango tree stands as one of the earliest and most vivid expressions of the symbol. Her joyous stance seems to declare that nature is sacred, fertility is blessed, and every mango hanging above her is a gift of life. The viewer feels the optimism of spring and the riches of the earth in her single eloquent gesture. And as we leave the shade of the mango tree, the art invites us to explore another element: water, where a very different element swims to view. And the second scene I asked you to imagine is a painting from 1700s from Himachal Pradesh. A delicate Pahari watercolor portrays Lord Vishnu's fish avatar, Matsya, emerging from the depth. Here we see extraordinary being, the preserver of the world, with the upper body of a regal man and the tail of a great fish. He wears a golden crown and holds divine weapons in his hand, but below the waist his form flows into a graceful carp-like tail, fins fanning out. In the painting, Matsya rises above stylized wave. Beneath the water surface lurks a demon in the shape of a conch shell, its face visible on the spiraling shell. This is the villain of the story, clutching precious scrolls. In front of Matsya, tiny worshippers with folded hands float in awe. These are the personified Vedas, the sacred scriptures drawn as little figures liberated from the demon's belly. The entire drama unfolds against a muted background of earthy brown, with a distant shoreline indicated by a few stylized trees. It is quite a dramatic composition. The fish avatar dominates the scene, a beacon of hope amid the flood. The Matsya avatar is one of Vishnuji's 10 great incarnations, and according to tradition, it was the very first. It's a powerful image of salvation, the fish god delivering not only mankind but also saving knowledge itself from oblivion. The fish, a creature of the depths, here symbolizes divine guidance through the darkest of time, life preserved amid chaos. Indian artists found inventive ways to illustrate this cosmic story. Even beyond this tale, fish imagery had positive connotations in Indian art. In Hinduism, fish can signify fertility and bounty, and in Buddhism, a spear of golden fish is one of the 8 auspicious symbols, representing happiness and freedom. Having journeyed from the solidity of earth to shifting waters of the flood, we now turn to the final symbol, which blooms at the meeting of earth and water. In the dimly lit Ajanta cave, a mural of Bodhisattva Padmapani, the lotus bearer, quietly comes to life. The painting, softened by age but still mesmerizing, shows a princely figure with gentle, downcast eyes and a compassionate half smile. His skin is a warm golden brown and he wears an elaborate crown studded with jewels. Delicate pearl loops from his neck and his torso tilts in a graceful curve. In his right hand, held at shoulder height, he grasps the slender dark stem of a blue lotus. The flower itself, the lotus, hovers near his head, its petals open in full bloom. Around the central figure, faint images of people around and foliage can be seen. In Indian culture, the lotus is a supreme symbol of purity. The delicate flower takes root in muddy, murky water, yet emerges above the surface unsoiled and beautiful. Thus, it represents the enlightened mind and spiritual awakening, remaining untouched by the world's impurities, just as a lotus remains clean despite the mud. By holding a lotus, he wordlessly conveys his role. He guides souls towards purity and enlightenment, helping them rise above from the suffering. Even beyond Buddhism, the lotus motif is woven deeply into Indian art and spirituality. Hindu deities are often depicted with lotuses. The creator Brahma is said to have been born on a lotus emerging from Vishnu's navel. Lord Vishnu himself holds a lotus and the goddess Lakshmi stands or sits on a fully open lotus blossom. In each case, the flower signifies divine origin, perfection, and grace. Lotus carvings adorn temple plinths and crown the top of pillars. From Diwali Puja to temple offerings, it is considered the sacred flower. The universality of the lotus makes Padmapani's portrayal instantly relatable to any Indian viewer. It speaks of a purity and divinity regardless of religious boundary. The lotus told them that amidst the darkness, the untarnished truth blooms. It's a promise that even in our muddy human existence, enlightenment can blossom. In the mango, the fish, and the lotus, we have followed a thread of storytelling that connects the earthly to the spiritual. These motifs, recurring in Indian art for over 2000 years, form a vocabulary through which artists conveyed ideas that words alone could not capture. A mango tree carved in stone at a stupa spoke of fertility and the joy of life. A fish painted in a hillside court revealed a tale of cosmic salvation and hope. A lotus brushed onto a cave was encapsulated purity amid impurity and compassion amid suffering. Understanding these symbols today make us look at Indian art in a new way. These symbols also remind us that human concerns fundamentally are consistent across ages. Life and fertility, safety and salvation, wisdom and purity, these are values as meaningful to us now as they were to those before us. By learning the language of symbolism, we unlock the emotional and philosophical messages the artist embedded in their work. Moreover, the elegance of these symbols lies in their layered simplicity. As we grow in knowledge, these images unfold into richer meaning without losing their immediate appeal. This is a testament to the poetic intelligence of Indian art. It operates on multiple levels, from the sensual to the sublime. And as our journey through these three symbols come to an end, let's reflect at why does symbolism matter. Symbolism distills complex ideas into memorable, beautiful form. They engage our imagination and emotions directly. By decoding the symbols in Indian art, we don't just learn about history or theology, we also uncover insights about ourselves. See, these lessons are art's silent gift to us. Whenever you look around yourself and you see a motif, whether it's the three we discussed today, know that it has a historical meaning to it. It has an ancient story tied to you and I. And in understanding that, we become the part of a dialogue of the past and the present. They invite us to slow down and make us wonder that what does this represent? Why was this placed here? Why was it placed with different symbols and different motifs around them? But there's always something new that you're going to learn by just asking that question. It is purely visual, emotional, and intellectual all at once. And perhaps that is the greatest triumph of Indian art symbolism, that a single symbol can compress so much truth and beauty that even today we feel it, we learn from it, and we're moved by it. Understanding these symbols matters because it keeps the artwork alive. It matters because it connects our curiosity with their creativity. And ultimately, it matters because it enriches our experiences of life and also inspire our mundane life on some days. If you watched it till here, thank you so much. I'm Kanishka and I'll see you next week with another topic to talk about on Indian art. Till then, take care and don't forget to subscribe.